All right, you guys, in today's session, I'm going to be talking about market structure, right? And how you can use it with the trend line so you can get a proper entry price. So the way I trade, guys, is very, very, very simple. I look for the trend because I trade with the trend at all times. And then I look for market structure, right? This is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. And I use the Fibonacci retracement as a tool to precisely tell me when to get in the market, right? I can guarantee you guys, if you can master these three things, it's going to take your trading skill set to the next level, right? So please pay attention to this video as this video is very, very, very crucial and you must be able to place your key structures properly, right? So in the previous video, guys, I talked about trend lines, right? So if the market is bullish, you'll be looking for buys. If the market is bearish, you'll be looking for sells, right? So obviously, like I told you guys as well, right? I always make sure the weekly trend and the daily trend is the same, right? If the market is trading up on the weekly time frame, right, I scale down to the daily time frame to also make sure the market is also trending up. As you can see, the daily and the weekly aligns, right? So the next step is, right, you go to the daily time frame, guys. If the market is trending up, please pay attention to this, right? If the market is trending up, guys, you should be getting higher lows and higher highs, right? And you should be looking to only buy at the higher lows, right? Please and please and please pay attention to this as I'm going to repeat myself, right? If the market is in uptrend, right, trending up, right, you should be getting something called higher lows and higher highs. And you should be only looking to get in at the higher low. So, right, so what you need to do is go to insert, go to objects, shapes, right, and click on your rectangle box, right? Rectangle box is going to look like this. And what you have to do is right click, properties, and then I like using blue. And then I want it to be a bit bigger. You want it to be filled. Click on rectangle box, right? Let me try to fix it. It's going to look like this. I have to go right click, properties, and click on the draw object as background. And then you have to, let's see, parameters, and you have to click on fill. There we go. Yours should look exactly like mine, right? So that's the rectangle box, right? So like I mentioned earlier on, if the market is trending up, guys, you should be getting higher lows and higher highs, right? So what you need to do is go to insert, objects, shapes, and now you're going to have to place your key structures, right? What you have to do is you're going to need to start at the very bottom, right? You're going to draw this rectangle box, right? This is going to be a low, right? Because this is all the way at the bottom, and this is going to be a high, right? You have a low, you have a high. Remember what I said earlier on, you should be looking to buy it in the uptrend at the higher low, right? So you have the low, you have the high, and now this is a higher low. The reason this is a higher low is because this guy is higher than the previous low, which makes it a higher low, right? I'm going to repeat myself one more time so you guys can properly grasp it, right? So you have a low, you have a high, pretty simple, right? In an uptrend, the market is always going to give you the higher low for you to buy it so you can go up for you to make money, right? So as you can see, the market went all the way down to create a higher low, right? Because this guy is higher than the previous low, which makes it a higher low, and so on. And you have to keep on drawing your rectangle boxes, right? Go to shapes, rectangle box, and this is going to become a higher high, right? Because this high is higher than the previous high, right? You have a low, you have a high, you have a higher low, and you have a higher high because this guy is higher than the previous high, which makes it a higher high. You have to keep on drawing your rectangle boxes, right? Shapes, rectangle box. And now this is going to become a higher low, right? Because this guy now is higher than the previous low, which makes it a higher low, right? You have a low, high, higher lows, higher highs, and higher lows. And you only have one single job when it comes to in an uptrend. You'll be looking to buy it at the higher low, right? You're not looking to buy it at the higher high because you'll be getting a bad entry price, right? When it comes to trading, you must try to get at the best entry price possible, right? You have a higher low, you have a higher low, right? And the market went all the way up again to create the same structure, right? To give you the next, we do the next higher high, and went all the way down to give you a higher low again, right? You place the buy, market went all the way up, you make money at the higher low, right? And then you wait for the market to drop again to create the next higher low. You place the buy again, the market went all the way up and you make money. And then now the market went all the way down to create the next higher low. You place the buy, as you can see, it is currently going up. Right? It is very, 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 very simple. When I tell you, if you take your time to properly master trend lines, master market structure, and master the Fibonacci retracement, which I'm going to be talking about in the next video, these three things, guys, is going to take your trading skills to the next level. I can guarantee it, right? And in uptrend, guys, like I mentioned, you'll be getting higher lows and higher highs, higher lows and higher highs, and you only have one job, right? To wait for the market to retrace, to create the high low for you to get in, right? So let's start from here, right? The market created a low, went all the way up to create a high. As you can see, when you drop all the way down to create a higher low, right? So you're probably asking yourself right now, right? How do you know when to properly place the buy? I'll be talking about the Fibonacci tool that we use to precisely tell us when to get in, right? But for now, I just want you guys to, open like naked chart, upload your template, and look for the trend and place your key structures, right? You're going to have a low, you're going to have a high, going to have a higher low. At the higher low, the market should react and go up. At the higher low, the market should react and go up to give you higher highs and higher highs, right? But that is for an uptrend. In an uptrend, you should be getting higher lows and higher highs. I'm going to show you guys a quick example, right? So let's say if the market is trending up, something like this, right? You're going to get something like this, right? You're going to have this, right? This is going to be a high low, right? The market is going to go up, right? To create a higher high, right? The market is going to go down to create a higher low. You'll be looking to buy and to buy, right? The market is going to go up again to create the next higher low, right? The market is going to go down, right, to create the next higher high, and so on and so on. And you only have one job, guys, right? Be patient, right? Be patient and wait for the market to create the higher lows for you to buy. You buy, right? Just to buy again, right? And you place the buy again. You have the low, you have the high, you have the high low, and you'll be looking to place the buy and get out at the next high, right? So let's say if you place the buy, right? If you place the buy at the high low, your take profit should be up there, right? At the next high, at the previous structure. If you place the buy again, your take profit, right? Your take profit zone should be, right? You'll be taking your money, right? At the previous high, and so on and so on. If you place the buy again, right? Obviously, the market is going to go up to create the next higher high, but make sure you get out at the previous market structure, right? So you place the buy, right? And you get out at the previous high, right? And then your stop loss is always going to be below the previous higher low, right? If you place the buy, your stop loss gotta be below this guy, right? I typically place my stop loss 50 pips below this guy, right? So you get in, that's your stop loss about 50 pips below the previous higher low, and then this is going to be your take profit, right? And you get out and you wait for the market to go all the way up to create the next higher low. You get in again, your stop loss is going to be below the previous higher low, right? And your take profit is going to be at the previous high, at the previous higher high, and so on and so on. When I tell you guys, if you take your time to master trend lines and market structure and the Fibonacci tool retracement, which I'm going to be talking about in my next video, this will definitely change your trading game. I can guarantee it, right? So now let's look for a bearish, aka a downtrend, right? So since I've done showed you guys how to place your market structures in an uptrend, right? You start with the low, right? You grab rectangle boxes, you place the low, you place the high, and then you wait for the market to drop to create something higher than the previous low, aka higher low. And you wait for the market to go all the way up to go past the previous high to create something higher than the previous high, aka higher high. And you wait for the market to drop down again to create the next higher low, and so on and so on. And in uptrend, guys, you only have one job only to wait for the market to retrace to create the higher low for you to place the buy. Obviously, you have to know when the market is done retracing, and you have to know what tool to use to help you with your entry price. And I'll be talking about that in my next video. Basically, as you guys can see, there's a proper uptrend, right? And you'll be looking for buys at the trend, right? Touch went all the way up, touch went all the way up, touch went all the way up, and touch went all the way up, and so on and so on. So now we're going to find, right, a bearish example. Bearish means downtrend, right? So we're going to use this example, right? So we're gonna have to grab our trend line, drag it all the way down. Sometimes I don't even need to use trend line. It's very easy for me to tell, right? In a downtrend, guys, you should be getting lower lows and lower highs. This is very, very crucial, right? In a downtrend, you'll be getting lower lows and lower highs. And in the uptrend, you'll be getting higher lows and higher highs, right? Let me find a better example actually for you guys. Similar example on what I just showed you guys on AUDNZD. When I tell you, man, you're going to see this over and over and over again, and it's going to be up to you to properly identify the trend and to properly place your key structures correctly. As you can see, silver was trending up, giving you an uptrend. All you have to do in an uptrend, right, is to look for buys only, and you look for buys at the higher lows. And the next step is to go to insert, right, grab your objects and go to shapes and place your key market structures, right? You have the low, you start with the low, right? The market is going to go up to give you a high, right? And then it's going to go all the way down to give you a higher low, right? It's going to go all the way up to give you a, right, a higher high. It's going to go all the way down to give you a higher lows, right? And an uptrend, you should be getting higher lows and higher highs. And went all the way up to give you a higher high, right? Yet again, you only have one job and one job only, right? Low, high, and you'll be buying at the higher low, right? Higher low went all the way up to give you a high high, you'll be buying at the next higher low, and so on and so on and so on. But as you can see, the market was on a beautiful uptrend, and now it is no longer trending up anymore. Like I mentioned in the previous video, right? If the market is trending up, you look for buys, but the minute the market breaks below the uptrend, right? Went all the way up to retest it, you're no longer looking for buys, you should be looking for sells, right? Very, very, very simple, guys. Like I said, you have to pretty much study each video step by step, and you have to pretty much combine everything together so you can properly get all your confirmations, all your confluences before you place a trade, right? So now let's look for a downtrend example, right? As you can see, the market was on a downtrend, and now it's currently trending up on a downtrend, guys. You should be getting lower lows and lower highs. As you can see, this was a proper downtrend, right? So what you have to do is, right, you're going to have to start with the high. The market drop all the way to give you a low, right? You're going to get something like the opposite of a uptrend, right? You have a high, you have a low, right? And then this is going to call a lower high. The reason this is a lower high is because this low is lower compared to the previous high, aka which makes it a lower high, right? And you only have one job and one job only, and a downtrend to be looking to sell it at the lower high, right? Very, very simple, guys, right? You have the high, you have the low. The market is always going to retrace to go up to create the lower high for you to sell it, and then it is always going to go down, right, to create something lower than the previous low, which makes this a lower low, right? You have a low, you have a high, you have a lower high, and you have a lower low because this guy is lower than the previous low, right? On a in a downtrend, you'll be looking to sell at the lower highs. In an uptrend, you'll be looking to buy at the higher lows, right? Higher lows in an uptrend, lower highs in a downtrend. So you're going to get a downtrend, something like this, right? And the market is going to start from the market is going to give you a high, going to drop to give you a low, going to go up to give you a lower high, right? It's going to go all the way down to give you something lower than this guy, to give you a lower low. And it's going to go up to give you another lower high. It's going to go down to give you a lower low. Same thing over and over again, right? You're going to get something like, and then you only have one job when it comes to downtrend, to sell at the lower lows, right? You have the high, low, lower high, you place the sell, right? When all the way down, you take profit. When all the way up, you place the sell again, and so on and so on, right? In an uptrend, you get a higher lows and higher highs. In a downtrend, you get lower lows and lower highs, right? And of course, I will be going over the Fibonacci retracement tool, and then I'll be going over entry price and how to properly get into the market, right? This is how you draw your key structures in a downtrend. High, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and lower low. And you only have one job and one job only to place your sell at the lower highs, right? Place the sell, when all the way down, you take your profit. Place the sell again, when all the way down, you take your profit. Do not be buying in a downtrend. Do not be selling in an uptrend, right? You must trade with the trend at all times, right? So quick recap, guys, right? In an uptrend, you'll be getting low, high, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and higher highs. And you only have one job and one job only to buy at the higher lows, right? You buy, you make money. You buy when all the way up, you make money. In a downtrend, you'll be getting the opposite. You'll be getting high, low, lower high, and lower low. On a downtrend, you'll be looking to sell at the lower highs, right? So that's pretty much it when it comes to market structure, right? So you draw your trend line and you use the rectangle boxes to help you mark your key structures, right? So I'll be going over the Fibonacci retracement tool and how you can properly use it to help you with your entry price.